Hi, this is Jason from Effective Dashboards, helping maintenance and reliability professionals get the most out of Power BI. So welcome back to another video. In this video, I'm going to be focusing in on the multi-info card. So the multi-info card is a bit like the multi-row card with a few differences, which we're going to go into in the video. And I'm going to show you how to create a multi-info card that looks at backlog analysis, and we're going to go into this conditional formatting for the images here. We're going to look at how we can set up these little indicators, and overall just get used to setting up a multi-info card. Okay, so let's get started. So the multi-info card is a card that you've got to download. So you will need to go in, get more visuals, and just search for the multi-info card. Okay, so here's the multi-info card here. So just click on the link and download that to your Power BI desktop. So once it's downloaded, we're going to go and just add the card in just now. Now it comes with a load of different instructions here, which are worth reading. I'm going to talk you through these anyway, so I'm not going to go through them line by line. But yeah, they're there as a quick reference guide when you create this card in your own visualizations. So there's 4 different field wells here. There's one for the title. There is one for informations, so I'm not sure if that's even a word, but that's the measures. There's one for images, and there is one for tooltips. So let's start to build it up. In this example here, I want to be able to show a range of different backlog metrics for each department. Okay, so we're going to start off with the titles, and it's going to be department. Okay, so I'm going to add that in. And then we are going to go in and add in the informations, and that is going to be the different backlog measures that I've got. So just to quickly show you the backlog measures, each one, we'll start off with safety. Where is it? Here's it here, safety. Each one of these is just a calculate statement that's going to go and actually calculate the backlog count for the work criticality of safety. And we're going to do the same for environment, production and routine. I'm also going to add in the total backlog and the percentage of total backlog. So I'll go and do that just now. Okay, so we've added these in, and straight away we can see that we're starting to populate each of these multi-row or each of these multi-detail cards. Now, it's worth just noting for a second the difference between a multi-row card and a multi-detail card, or multi-info card. So let's go and look at a multi-row card. So in here we can see that we've done a similar thing. We've got a list of, we've got the work criticality description, and this is a backlog count, the total percentage, the total backlog hours. So it's a similar sort of idea. We've got a department that's been split by the department values. Now what happens is if I just move this out, these will be shown as rows. Okay, the multi-row card. So each of these measures will be, or attempt to be shown in a row. It's only once you start to compress it up that it goes into this this different sort of stacked vertical kind of configuration. Whereas if we go to the multi-info cards, their default configuration is to be stacked vertically. Okay, so you get a lot more. Basically, each one of these looks a little bit more like a card that you would see if you had a card with some details on it. The other difference here is that we've got the ability to add images, which will come in a second, and we've also got the ability to add these tooltips. Now you can see these tooltips are popping up just now. I'm actually going to turn that off for just now, but there's a capability to add in tooltips here, which if we go back to these cards here, there's no option to add tooltips to the default multi-row card. Okay, so there's a few improvements, or a few options which are not available in the multi-row card, which is the default offering from Microsoft, and that comes as default with Power BI as a visual. Okay, so let's tidy this up a little bit. I'm going to go and change the title, and I'm going to just do some tidying up of these actual descriptions here. Okay, so the title looks a lot better now, and we can see that this safety environment production, it's just a lot neater, particularly as they're duplicated for each one of these cards. So let's look at some of the options we've got. So general's fine. Under cards, we're going to go and change the width of it to be a little smaller so that we can get everything on one page, and that's great. We're going to go and scroll down. I want to put a border around the cards, and I'm going to make that 4, and just rounds off the sides there and makes it look a little bit neater. So we can see we're starting to look like a card. Each one of these is a card. But let's get into this images here. Okay, so the first major difference between multi-row cards, apart from the layout aspect that I talked about earlier, is the ability to add images. Okay, so how do we go about adding the images? So what I've done here is I've created a table called images basic. Okay, so I've basically created an image for each one of the departments: maintenance, operations, wells, drilling, integrity, and engineering. Okay, so I've created that image, and it's got a URL. Now that URL needs to be a place where Power BI can go and access it, particularly once you publish it up to the service. So I've loaded that into a website, and it can be on SharePoint, or it could be on OneDrive for business. Now I don't have SharePoint or OneDrive for business, so I've had to use a website, but you can link it to somewhere that can be accessed, okay, when it's actually published up to the Power BI service. So this table here is then, I've created a join between the department and the department in the work order data, which is the data that we're pulling the backlog figures from. Okay, so we've got a one-to-many relationship, so each department has got a related image. So let's go back into our field well here, and I'm going to go and I'm going to pull in the image URL. Okay, now the first thing you can see is that each one of these images is the same. Okay, so what you also need to do is this department here needs to be the department from that connected table. Okay, so I'm going to go and replace this department here, and here we can see we've now got an image for each one of these departments. So it just helps to visualize maintenance, integrity, drilling, operations, wells, and engineering. It just helps you to visualize and hone in your department, and particularly if this is maybe looking at things based on products or a company or something that's a recognizable logo. It just helps to kind of focus straight in on the card that's appropriate to you. Okay, so that's the first thing. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to create a little bit of space between the image here and the title and these cards here. So what I've done is I've created a string here. So let's make it slightly bigger, and we'll just extend that. So text, backlog, message, and basically we've got this unichar 10, which basically forces a carriage return, and then we've got an ampersand, which is basically concatenating this string here, and then we've got another carriage return. Okay, so what we're going to do with that is we're going to pull that in, and we're going to make it the first field here. Okay, text, backlog message. So we can see it's got the actual name of the measure there, so we're going to change that, and we're going to put in backlog summary. Okay, so it just helps to separate the actual measures from the actual header section there. So with some dots here, just to kind of give it a little bit of a separation and a divider there. Next, we're going to go and we're going to add some conditional formatting. Now, there's two options. The first option is some conditional formatting, which is just available as part of the functionality of this particular visualization. So let's go back and have a look at that, and we're going to go into the cards, and we've got this option here, conditional formatting. So I can switch that on, and then we've got this tab here that's now become available. Okay, this option's here. So I'm going to go to advanced controls, and we've got the normal options, a gradient, we've got some rules, or we've got conditional format that can be based on a field value. So for just now, I'm going to use this gradient option, and we're just going to stick with this. Okay. Now, what you can see straight away is that it's quite it's quite intrusive, it's quite in your face. Okay, so it color codes the whole card. And based on the colors that I've selected, I mean, they're quite harsh, these colors here, but it's going to be a bit overwhelming, okay? Particularly if you use this red, because it's going to color code the whole thing red, okay? Now, that was based on the backlog count, but it could be based on any one of these values here. But what I want to do is I want to do something slightly different, and for that I want to conditionally format not the whole card. So let's take that off for just now. I'm just going to turn it off. I want to only conditionally format the actual symbol at the top here, based on a rule set that I'm going to talk you through in a second. Okay, so as part of the setup for this conditional formatting, what I've done is I've gone and I've created two versions for each of the images that I want to associate with a department. Okay, so there's two for maintenance, two for engineering, drilling, wells, integrity, and yeah, it's engineering, that must be operations. So I've created a different image for each one of those. Now, I've created these, just as a really quick aside, I created these using canva.com. I'll leave a link below, which I highly recommend. It's free to begin with, loads of functionality for free. You can pay for an upgraded version, but certainly great if you want to deal with some images. It's really straightforward and easy to use. But that's just an aside and something I've used. Then what I've done is I've created a table, and this is called Image Locations Advanced. Okay, so this table here has got each one of those. I don't know why it's not opening up a bit further, but basically what I've done is I've got a maintenance and I've got a maintenance KPI warning version of each of one of these logos, okay, with each one of these images. And I'm going to create some code that's going to decide which one of those to show based on some rules that I'm going to define as part of a measure. So let's go back and we'll look at how that's done. So what we want to do is this image here, we want that to be dynamically generated and based on the comparison with one or more of these measures for each one of the cards, basically for each one of these departments. So if I go and look at this department image, okay, so rather than just image URL, I've called it department image. So let me just talk you through what I've done here. So the first thing I've done is I've used this selected value, and that's going to go and in the context of each one of these cards, it's going to go and it's going to find this department value. Okay, so that's what selected value does. It finds basically the column which is department. It goes, and if it's only got one value, it pulls that value back. And each one of these will only have one value because each one of these cards is showing a department. Okay, maintenance, operation, integrity, etc. So that's the first thing we're going to do. Then we're going to calculate a result using a switch statement. Now this first section here is looking to determine if any of these threshold values have been breached. So safety, backlog count, is it greater than 2? Now this code here is as a shortcut for an OR statement. Okay, so these two pipes here. So it's basically saying, is has the safety critical or the environmental critical or the production critical or the routine critical backlog breached any of these values here for that particular department. Okay, now then finally, so that's really all one statement there. In this switch true, it's looking for this to be true, and this will only be true if one of these is breached, okay, because it's an OR statement. If any of these is breached, then that will return a true. Now if it's true, it's going to return the first value here, or the first expression. It's going to run this first expression, which is going to look in this images location advanced image URL, and we're using this lookup value. So how lookup value works is it is looking for a value in this field here. Okay, that's the target field. Now let's just open this up. So basically the results column, so it's going to look in this column, and it's going to search through this column based on two things. The first thing it's going to search through this column is based on the department. Okay, so it's going to try and find the department or the associated department, and the department value it's looking for is going to be this current department and the KPI warning. So these two concatenated together. So say, for example, we've got the first one here. Let me just talk you through this first one, which is maintenance. Okay, so the current department is maintenance. So this is going to look for if it's above safety backlog count is greater than 2. Now we can see here that it's 19, so that's going to be true, because first of the very first statement is true, so the whole thing is going to be true. So then it's going to run this lookup statement here, and it's going to look for an image, and it's going to search that the image. It's going to find the image which is related to the locations department, where the department is equal to maintenance concatenated with KPI warning. Okay, so let me just show you that in action. So it's going to go and search for, its target is this URL, image URL, and it's going to go and find this image URL by looking through this department column and looking for this text here, maintenance KPI warning. Okay, so that's how it's going to go and pull back this this value here, this image, which is in 2.image PNG is the red version of the maintenance KPI warning. Okay, so hopefully you can understand what's going on here with this lookup value. Now, if this isn't true, basically it's just going to return the image for the department. Okay, now the image for the department is a black version. So if I go back in here very quickly, it's just going to find this image here, which is image.png image, so 1.png. Okay, so that's the image it's going to bring back. So it's going to take an image, which is either going to be the black version or the red version, depending on whether any of the thresholds are breached for any of those KPI values. So fairly easy to get your head around once you've kind of looked at it a few times, hopefully. Right, so let's go and change this image here to the one that we're calculating, which is this department image. Okay, so straight away we can see that because this safety has been breached, it's higher. Then we've got 19 here, then that's turned red. This one here, environmental, is higher than 2, it's 11. This one's black, it's fine. Operations has got safety that's 3, and then these ones are fine. Okay, so I think it's a lot less intrusive just to see that image conditionally formatted rather than the whole card conditionally formatted. Okay, so next we're going to go and look at highlighting which one of these we should be interested in, because we know it's red and we know something's an issue, but what isn't clear is which one of these is the issue with, which one has breached its threshold. So next we're going to go and look at that. Okay, so let's go and add an indicator next to one of these KPIs, or one of these measures, so we can highlight why this is turned red at the top here. So what I'm going to do is I am going to I have created a version of this safety critical backlog, which is going to be text. Okay, so I've done this before in a previous video, and we're going to use the same approach here. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to use a switch statement, and we're going to first of all check to see if the safety critical backlog count is greater than 2, which is the target that we've used for setting one of these as being either red or black. You know, if the safety critical backlog is greater than 2, so we can see this one here is 19, this one's 3, so these are red. And if it is, then we're going to use this highlight symbol, and we're going to use an ampersand to join a space with the actual backlog count, the safety critical backlog count. If it's not, we're just going to display the safety critical backlog count. Okay, so it's going to construct a text string. Now it doesn't really matter because we're just using this for display purposes, and that's going to work perfectly well. So let's go and we'll add that in. Okay, so here we can see that we've got an indicator next to each one of these. Now we can see I've just left the original measure in just to confirm that it is actually reading properly. We can get rid of that. And here we have it, you know, so we've got the maintenance, and we can see that there's a little indicator, a subtle indicator there. Now we can choose different indicators here, and if I go in, that indicator is stored as a measure called highlight symbol. Okay. Now what I've done is I've got a few different options here that I've left after the comments. So these double slashes here basically comment everything off to the right. So we can try it with some other ones. We've got this red symbol here we can add in just to see the difference. Okay, so that adds an element of red and sort of draws your attention even more vividly to this one here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this. I've created measures for each one of these that do the same. Okay, so basically, if it's breached a threshold, it'll display a symbol with a value. If it's not breached a threshold, it'll just display the actual backlog count value. So I'm going to add those in, and then we'll come back and look at the next thing. Okay, so here we can see we've got a couple of issues here, we've got one issue here, we've got one issue here, so it's really quick and easy to be able to identify where you've got some issues against a threshold and navigate to them really quickly. Okay, so hopefully you found this useful and it's given you some ideas about how you might use a multi-info card in your dashboards in your organization, and in particular looking at the conditional formatting and how you might want to set up the conditional formatting of these images rather than the whole card. If you are interested in conditional formatting, then check the link below. I do have a course that takes you from sort of basic conditional formatting right through to advanced and setting up integrated KPI management systems. So check it out below. It's the Power BI Quick Start Plus. But apart from that, if you found this useful, it's always appreciated if you could give it a thumbs up. And if you're finding this for the first time or you want to keep up to date with the latest videos that I release more or less every week, then hit the subscribe button and you'll get a notification. So thanks again for watching, and I'll talk to you in the next video.